All right, thank you everyone for joining this SMI community call. It is July 7th, 2021. What we like to do at the beginning, if you're new to the call, we like to give you a chance to introduce yourself. But prior to that, I just want to inform everyone that this call is under the CNCF governance of Code of Conduct. So just be respectful in your conversations. With that, if anyone is new to the call, if they would like to introduce themselves to the community and tell us a little about you and what you're interested in. All right. Anybody?
People. I think I can go first.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, I've been in this call once, I guess, but it was a long ago. So I think I should probably tell about myself once again. So yeah, I'm Dhruv. I'm from Layer 5. I'm an intern over there. I work a bit in the SMI conformance tool. Let's see. I hope we talk about it a bit today. I'm excited about that. And yeah, about my hobbies. I like Minecraft.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again for showing up, Drew. Okay. And again, if you are on the call, just if you don't mind, take a second, make sure you have added yourself to the attendees list. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into this call's agenda. And we're going to kick it off with Bridget. So Bridget's going to talk to us about the upcoming schedule for the SMI call.
Thanks, Phil. Just letting everyone know there is no meeting next week because our working group is on summer hiatus. Phil and I are both out on separate vacations on July 21st meeting. So think during this call if you would like to run this meeting that day, and let me know in the chat and we'll get that set up because we would need someone to moderate and take notes. We should confirm that by July 16th. Otherwise, the next meeting will be August 4th. So we'll see. And it looks like Lee is interested in that. So I'll follow up and make sure he has all the details ready to go for that. So we will have a meeting July 21st. All right, that's all I had. Back to you, Phil.
All right. Thank you, Bridget. Hopefully people are taking some time off to recharge their batteries. So that's always important. Next up is me. I know last meeting we talked about the expansion of the current SMI spec, and I quickly drew up a draft right prior to this meeting. Again, you know, just to catch up anyone from the last meeting about this, it's you know, the service mesh landscape is evolving as we know. I think when the initial SMI spec came about, it had some very common, or we could call it commoditized type of functionality that is represented in most service meshes. Sorry, I'm not sure my phone is going to bug us. I think now what we're seeing is that introducing other service mesh projects, there's other kind of key features and functionality that people kind of consider as standard to a service mesh. And so what this proposal is to for us to kind of think about what is the next level or the next version of SMI components that we should consider that, you know, again, could be commoditized, commodity type of functionality, or functionality that we think the SMI spec should have just for future durability of the spec and its lifespan. So again, I just started on it, so I got kind of the opening kind of problem statement, opportunity, et cetera. Where I would like to see the community pitch in here is really under the proposal. So again, this is all open for anyone. I kind of seeded some of things that I'm hearing from customers, such as circuit breaking, rate limiting, et cetera. But again, it's not an exhaustive list, but would like the community to figure out, hey, what do you think should be put into the SMI spec that you think should be kind of a common functionality that would be useful for anyone that's consuming the specification. So I'll go and again add to this, but feel free if you want to add any content to this, feel free to comment against it. I'm sure this is going to be, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of conversation around this as we figure out what this V2 for SMI look like and what it should contain. So I'll pause on that note and open it up if anyone has any questions, how they feel about this, etc.
Do you have a specific time target in mind that you want the discussion to resume? Being that you'll be out 2 weeks from now, like a month from now, do you want to bring this up again, or?
Yeah. Let's probably touch base on this back sometime in August. I think what's probably most important for the community is really the components that people think should be in it. So I think if we can spend the next couple of weeks, several weeks, kind of just building a list, and then maybe we can revisit this and kind of create like a cut line and come up with some agreements as far as what we think is possible and what makes sense for SMI to consume. And then we can go with planning and everything from that. But yeah, so I would say, yeah, let's say in August, let's try to get the list complete. And then again, we can have some discussions around that list in that next meeting, or we'll figure a meeting, maybe we can highlight this discussion to happen and then go from there.
Awesome.
Yep. Anything else from anyone else? I mean, I think we had consensus, like this is, I think Lee, you spoke about this, that, hey, this stuff is grown, right? And we need to kind of expand the spec. So I think we're all, I think we all think this is a good thing.
Yeah, that's right. One of the, to jump in there, one of the things that there's a generic way of stating this as well.
Okay.
And I'm not commenting or reflecting on the content of the proposal itself. Rather, what I mean to say is, well, there's a list here, and if folks think about it long enough, there'll be a couple more bullet points to add, or 10, or 3, or some number. In total, like depending upon how you count it, like service meshes do, maybe it really depends on how you count, but like maybe 100 bullet points. Like there's like 100 things you can do with a mesh, or a lot is my point. And so one of the things that I've been a proponent of from the genesis of the spec was a consideration for extensibility. And by that, I mean, for the other 85 bullet points that we don't have listed here, or that we don't have covered yet, another way of approaching this is, hey, how do how do we make this spec extensible, or can we, or should we, and if so, how do we? And so,
no, that's a good point there, Lee.
Can I ask a quick question here? Lee, that sounds really interesting to me. Have you thought more about what that would look like? Any kind of like sketches back of the napkin? I'm curious kind of what you're thinking about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Which I guess what I mean to say is like, yeah, great question. I'll try to provide a couple of examples. Like there's an approach that Meshri has taken that's that I guess I haven't reflected as to whether or not that would work here. But yeah, it is like, just as two quick references that just bubble up to mind as potential places to be inspired from, maybe. And I say that with like, please take this with a grain of salt, because I'm about to mention two things that are, one of them is SNMP. It's like if you've had the pleasure of interfacing with SNMP, well, there's a set of like it has this system of OIDs, organizational, and it has areas that are reserved, much like IPv4, like IP addressing for anyone to overload, like insert you, while you can go out and claim a namespace, which is like, hey, that's one way of potentially like namespacing certain a reserved and experimental, or maybe it's marked, maybe there's a section marked experimental, maybe there's a section marked insert your namespace here. You must follow these other rules of like common to every spec should be that if you're identifying traffic, you'll be using the traffic spec, like you'll be reusing existing, you know, componentry, if you will, or existing definitions from other specs. And that that's, now, as I say this, like, so there's another spec, Redfish, that comes to mind, that both of these are like all maybe terrible examples. They're both about managing infrastructure, which is in part what SMI is about. That's a specification that's like a next gen IPMI. That's also about managing infrastructure that is extensible. I think it's fair to ask, like to me, if I think aloud about this, like it's an enticing thought to say, okay, great, there's a catch-all bucket. Like, hey, expose your differentiation here, or expose the weird fangled thing that you have as a service mesh that no one else is ever going to have. But let's let you be fully compliant with the spec by exposing that in an abstract way, in a way in which, you know, consumers of the spec of users of your service mesh and consumers of the spec don't have to like roll their eyes and say, well, good, well, we got most of it out of SMI, but we still got to go around SMI to get to this thing. So like, is that enough value? Is a shim just like, is that enough value, maybe psychologically, or maybe legitimately, as people go to write integrations to say, there's where the authentication happens on this like this is the surface area, this is the interface. You know, concerns about how things are encrypted and authenticated, and how, you know, is uniform, at least in that way.
You've been putting a lot of thought into it. This is super interesting stuff. What's that? Yeah, thank you, Lee. This is incredible. I'm gonna look into Redfish. You said, is that right?
Yeah.
And SNMP.
Yeah,
that's good examples.
well, taken with a great. They were the first that I worked on both of those specs, and so they're the first that come to mind.
Yeah. Feel free to. You know, that's some good stuff there, Lee. If you want to, you know, put that in the doc. I think another thing to think about, just real quick, just as a time check, but I just want to kind of throw it out there. I know Nick has been working with Michelle on like this SMI SDK, and I know that was kind of leading with kind of extensibility of things. So I don't know if that, you know, if there's an intersection here of what's going on with that project or not, but you know, we can sync and have a deeper discussion on that. All right. Okay. So I think so the link is in the doc. Please feel free to socialize that, etc., and add to it. Let's see. Next, we have Johnson. Johnson's going to talk about renaming the traffic target and traffic access in the spec.
Yeah, so basically I've received feedback from Michelle and also someone in the community opened an issue about traffic target, you know, which is a part of the traffic access API group. Traffic target, you know, the name isn't that descriptive. And so, you know, the proposal here is to rename traffic target to traffic access to make the name more intuitive, basically. Are we all in agreement on that? I also thought of bumping up the traffic access API group version to reflect this change, because it's going to be a breaking change. You know, it's going to change the name. What do you guys think?
So this is just a rename of traffic target to traffic access, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So there's no additional functionality except to make it more intuitive, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it.
Any I don't know, think anyone will conflate that with access control? they're two different words, two different things, but and I guess I haven't looked at this, Johnson, but I'm trying to provide feedback rather than there being what I assume would be silence, which is so traffic target.
Conflated with access control, right? Yeah, that's a good point to bring up.
I don't know. That's just not a suggestion, just something to think about.
So the the GitHub issue has the GitHub PR has there's an issue that's linked. There's a discussion about what could be the rename, what could be the new name of the traffic target API. There's a bunch of suggestions there. I think we can take the discussion over there. Yeah.
Johnson, what's the motivation behind it? What's the kind of the why behind that?
Oh, Michelle and someone in the community thought that the traffic target name wasn't that intuitive, basically. And they thought that something like traffic access would make much more sense to reflect what the traffic target API actually does, which is allowing traffic access.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up. I put a link in the chat and I'll add it to the doc as well for just the issue 177 for people to continue to look into and discuss to make sure we've considered Lee's thoughts, etc.
Thank you so much, Lee and others.
All right, thank you, Johnson. All right, next up we have Drew. He wants to talk about SMI conformance.
Yeah, so basically what we want to talk about is the test results which we are getting from the SMI conformance. Like, as you can see, there's a lot of red which probably people will notice in the first time if they don't really know what is going on around over here. Like, so what I wanted to bring up is maybe we could redefine the way we are defining how someone is semi-conformant or full conformant to maybe have a bit of yellow in there too, and or maybe work with this particular mesh to see where they are exactly going wrong and how we can solve that or change that particular test cases in a way that they might be able to pass. That was the primary gist of it.
Any comments? I mean, I'm just looking at the list and just instinctively it looks a little odd. There's two OSMs, different versions.
And then it says there's traffic split and nothing is conformant is what it looks like firsthand. Like first glance, it's like, wow, why does traffic split exist if nothing conforms to it? So maybe the way that's being described is
and I wouldn't
confusing.
think that this would be like decremented in the newer version, but okay, not to derail.
I think, also to point out the third thing, OSMV 0.9 says 50%, but only 1/3 or something like that is passing. Or does that refer to, what does percent passed here refer to? It's kind of, yeah.
Yep. So this is, okay, sorry, go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, so the way we are currently defining is the set of tests which are out there. If at least half of them are passed, then we show it as yellow, and if all of them are passed, then we show it as green itself. So if you see red, it does not entirely mean that all of the like half of the test cases are not passing. It might be that 1/3 of them are passing, and so on and so forth. So I guess it's a good input. Maybe we should define it in a way there where half conformant has a less threshold of passing, I guess. That might be a way to go. So at least they will know that this particular spec is supported, but let's say for Alpha 4 version, it is not supported as such. Maybe we can do something like that where maybe it will show yellow telling that for this particular version it is not, but for the previous version it has the capabilities. So basically, sorry to flab, but basically the 50% over there is for that particular reason. And like if you want to go into detail on what passed and what not passed, you can hover over them and it will basically tell you. Like Linkerd, let's take an example of Linkerd. It doesn't support Alpha 4 for traffic split, but it does support traffic split in general. If I don't remember exactly which version, maybe Alpha 1 or 2. So maybe we could change the threshold that at least if they support for a different version, maybe change that to yellow or something like that to make the graph more lively. That
Um,
makes sense.
yeah, yeah. I'm just curious. Should only the latest version be presented from each project? I can see this being or becoming unwieldy if there's one project that has like 5 different versions and a whole different like matrix of support. That could be confusing.
Okay. Yeah, that should be a good way to go forward, I guess. Making having separate results for each of the version. Yeah. But okay. Input taken, it's a good input, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we could take it offline.
Phil, are you essentially suggesting we add kind of another dimension to the matrix where we have also the versions of each SMI vertical? And so then, you can see certain greens up until V1 alpha 3, then V1 alpha 4 becomes red. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah. I think there should just be a top level service mesh. Like, there's not 2 different products of OSM here.
Oh, you're talking about the
So
versions of OSM, I see.
yeah, and I could see like again the list could get pretty long if we start to kind of include older versions or just going forward each revision and having to keep up with that. Again, that's just my opinion on how that looks.
But something like maybe we could add a filter for the version or
Yeah,
something like that.
Collapse it down. Yeah.
Because yeah, for each service mesh we could collapse it down, because I feel like there will be customers out there, they would want to know, oh, I'm using Linkerd 2 versions old, but somehow something broke when I upgraded from that one from a version 3 versions old to one that's 2 versions old. Something changed. Let me quickly look it up. I can see that okay, the support, the conformance changed from this version to that version. I think keeping different versions would help. Yeah, there's a good use case.
That's a good call out. I didn't think of it. Yeah, as far as getting like a quick view of which APIs are supported. Yeah. All right. Any other comments anyone has on this?
Yeah, let me add a little bit of flavor if I could.
Go for it.
Drew, if you don't mind, if you click the link at the bottom there. So the chart that we're seeing right now is trying to summarize where, it's summarizing any number of tests that have occurred underneath the individual specs. So this page highlights the complete set of tests that are being performed under TA, like traffic access, TS, traffic spec. And so to present it in a summarized fashion means that some of the details are missing. It's nice that the chart, the dashboard does actually show you like what was failed, because that's like from the perspective, from everyone's perspective, maybe that's a point of interest. There is to each of your other points, Drew, if you scroll down to the bottom here, I think that there's a link that takes you to, if you would click that, please.
Lee, I'm going to stop you right here because we literally have 1 minute left and everyone I know has back-to-back meetings. Let's make this top of the meeting when you run the meeting in 2 weeks, and you can go into detail for it. Good. I did have one more agenda item, which we don't have time to play the video or go into it at all, but I did watch the video, take a bunch of notes on it. Nick prepared a nice 11-minute summary of the controller progress. And the call to action there is he's sketched out some areas where if people want to, there are places that they could put some pull requests in to do validation webhooks, maybe add some tests, implementing types. And there's a lot of work there, both in the SDK, and also he started an Istio SMI controller over in his GitHub, which will probably end up migrating that to the service mesh interface repo. So I know we're out of time, but there's a lot there, and definitely recommend watching Nick's video because it is detailed and awesome. That's what I want to say about that item. Back to you, Phil.
Yeah, sorry, I think I thought this was an hour long. If we could reconsider that. Okay, so sorry, yeah, we're out of time. A lot of discussion. Thank you all. With that, we'll go ahead and end the meeting. Please feel free to, we'll update the doc for the next session. So if you want to go ahead and put your agenda items, please do so. And I believe we are meeting in August, is that right?
We're meeting in 2 weeks. Lee
2
will run a
weeks,
meeting,
okay.
probably with some good conformance detail. I'm making promises on Lee's behalf, but I know he has a lot of content to provide in that topic. So that will be July 21st.
Thank you, Lee. Looking forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you, Drew.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Phil.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
See you.